Alright, much like our Alien Romulus video, we're in the red light district, home to prostitution, drugs, and other miscellaneous mayhem. And the red light district has got me thinking of a movie, and that's the Crow 2024 remake. So Aiden, what's the plot of the Crow 2024 remake?
The Crow 2024 follows our main character, Little Peep, drugged out Zanny rapper. On his way home from a Suicide Boys concert, he meets Black Shelley Duvall, and they fall in love. After 30 minutes of sex scenes, they get murdered by a guy who is a demon and a businessman demon who likes listening to children play piano and makes them evil. At that point, Lil Peep comes back as clown rap era Bobby Burns and kills people to send his girlfriend to Earth again. Connor, what'd you think of The Crow?
I thought The Crow was pretty abysmal. This movie's kind of strange because you have a main character that acts like a 17-year-old's SoundCloud rapper, basically.
Teenage love.
He's like, I write poems. They're not really songs, but if I was to rap out some hot verses, it'd be pretty sick. And then FKA Twigs is like, I'm a singer because I'm FKA Twigs, but in the movie I'm Shelley Duvall, and I look like Shelley Duvall. Do you want to fall in love with me? And then he says, yeah. And then they go to her buddy's house, who owns this apartment, and they just start ransacking the place like a couple of douchebags. But regardless of the fact that this nameless person's house is ransacked, the love story is pretty rushed and very thin. It only takes time out of the montage of them like cuddling or fucking or doing drugs, which in no way is like demonized or like saying this is dangerous. You know, it's just like they're popping pills and having a great time and falling in love.
They're Suicide Boys fans.
Yeah, average Suicide Boys fans. But they do a bunch of like Xanax and shit, and they're like, "This is fucking awesome. We're having a ton of sex, and this is great." And then every like couple minutes, they're like, "Love is a dangerous object." Blah blah blah. It's just like bullshit. Like at one point, he notices she has a tattoo that says "Laugh now, cry later." And he says, to me, it's cry now and cry later. It's just so cringe. And I also can't really take him seriously, being a 35-year-old man trying to act like a 19-year-old Xanax addicted kid with face tattoos.
I like them both trying to both just like repeating lines they saw on Facebook pictures of a mountain with text over it where they're like, if I'm hard to love, love me harder, you know?
Yeah. And then Bill Skarsgård is like, the only time I'm happy with my wife is when she makes me a sandwich or whatever. You know, he got onto the boomer end of Facebook. But they're both a couple of like, they're just like kind of like, I don't know, it's very devoid, and they just keep getting like shirtless, and of course, Bill Skarsgård bears ass to fuck FKA Twigs in one scene,
Yep.
where they're passionately banging, and they're like taking drugs and shit. So the relationship off the start is a couple of like I'm honestly shocked they didn't have like one of those vape lanyards on so they could like loom and then just drop it and it goes back on their side. Like, it was cringe. It was bad. And
blowing marijuana smoke.
This movie felt like a movie, like from a character's perspective, it felt like a movie written for 14-year-olds. And then they decide to have the most graphic, edgy violence, which, I mean, was occasionally cool, but there isn't much of a backbone to it. On top of that, like, the first 2/3 of the movie is set up like a very, very, very prolonged origin, followed by, like, 3, albeit extended fight scenes. But rather than, like, sprinkle in entertaining stuff, it's, like, an hour on an origin that spins its wheels, goes nowhere, and it's cheesy. Like, if there was like some sort of true romance that makes you like these characters, then maybe that's something. Maybe there could have been more about how drugs has affected their lifestyle, other than being like really sad. But that's kind of cool. It's kind of like what I complained with in my Suicide Squad video, where you just have these characters that are not very good for each other and in really bad places, and then they like romanticize that for some reason, rather than trying to commentate on it at all. And I feel like you're really trying to tap into a disenfranchised suburban youth with this movie, but it fails miserably. And then after that hour, there's some moderately okay fight scenes, and the movie's well enough shot, but it's just
And
like,
it's all scored
absolutely
by SoundCloud or punk rap.
Yeah, it's like punk rap. There was like one point where it sounded like a Leonard Cohen song,
There's like a fucking...
but then it has like a Drake beat under it, where it's like dreamy synths and like triplet things.
There's like knockoff SZA songs that play.
Yeah, knockout.
It's
yeah,
weird. It's really weird.
it's really
It's
bizarre. And I don't know how many of those are just like FKA Twigs songs she made for the movie. I really don't know anything about her other than the one ASAP Rocky song she did 10 years ago with him. But, yeah, I don't know. So then he like goes to hell or whatever, and then or purgatory, and learns he has to become like a super vigilante. And I don't know. He's not like horrified by what he's doing. He's no longer a drug addict, because I guess like as a ghost superhero thing, he doesn't need to be. And then the conclusion of the movie is he has to stay in purgatory and keep being the Crow, but she can like go back and live her life or whatever. Like, it's just, it's lame. The actual conflict of the movie is very rushed and put on the back burner. They have a point where Dr. Evil has a new girl that's basically FKA Twigs, and she shows up like 5 times through the movie. But I think the conclusion to her side story was cut, or I like blinked and missed it.
It was cut.
Because she looks scared the whole time, and it looks like maybe she'll assist the Crow. Maybe she'll be his next victim in the scene to establish stakes or something, or maybe the Crow wants to save her and fails, and it makes him reflect on the fact that he also failed to save Shelley Duvall. But no, she just disappears. Yeah, I mean, the problem is the movie's just, I mean, really it's boring. It's clearly designed to try to like claim a stake in the Hot Topic market, all of what Suicide Squad did. You don't really need to make money if you can
Sell
get
shitty
in,
t-shirts.
sell
that say
shitty
cry
t-shirts.
More, cry now, cry later.
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways it is kind of following that model too, because they tried to have a bunch of like weird original songs and shit, or maybe not original, but I mean they seemed original. So maybe they were trying to sell a soundtrack and it'd like push FKA Twigs' career, is the theory. I don't really know, but the whole thing was just a massive disaster, basically designed to try to find a niche market to make a lot of money off of, kind of like Suicide Squad did. I feel like that Hot Topic like teen angst, like it's a terrible relationship, but it's sexy to teenage goths or whatever. I think that was the goal of the movie, and by that metric, I don't know if it succeeded. I did see a lot of Letterboxd reviews, because Letterboxd is saturated with horny teenagers or horny 30-year-olds that want to be horny teenagers still. that were commenting like Daddy Sasgard covered in blood is very really soaks me down to my socks, so to speak. Or gives them an erection. I don't know. But either way, I think it worked on that aspect. I don't know if that's gonna carry the torch of this movie to success, but yeah, I thought The Crow was abysmal, and I'm not like particularly. I saw some people upset that were like fans of the source material or fans of the Brandon Lee movie. I watched the Brandon Lee movie like a year ago. It's not good, frankly. Like it's
not really.
It's better than this. It's better than the two VOD sequels or DTV sequels, but that doesn't mean much. In the comic, I thought always had a cool vibe, and it was probably a cool independent comic enough. I think like the concept of someone getting killed and then like becoming a vengeful spirit like isn't inherently bad. I don't think that concept's bad. I just think the angle Lionsgate went to try to market this movie. The fact that they hired the guy who directed the Ghost in the Shell movie.
Yeah, and Snow White and the Huntsman.
And Snow White and the Huntsman. And other mediocre failures on the part of this team was a failure. I think they were trying to market it off of Bill Skarsgård's six-pack. And to the success of which I don't know. Particularly, I don't think it'll be successful. I don't know what type of budget they made this on. Probably not much, which is probably why half the movie was them digging around and talking, and the biggest stars in this movie were Bill Skarsgård, the clown himself, and some female R&B artist from like Great Britain. So
and the villain is a minor character from season 2 of Succession. He's not even in season 3 or 1.
He's also the villain of. He was like a general guy in Wonder Woman. He's the fake out villain.
Oh right, I forgot about that.
He's the fake out villain where they're like, this general's got to be the most evil guy, but then it turns out that the other general they made less.
Ron Weasley's dad.
Ron Weasley's dad, who was a more evil guy, was the true villain.
Yeah.
So in conclusion, The Crow sucks. Aiden, what was your thoughts on The Crow?
It's kind of captivatingly terrible. We've seen a lot of terrible movies this year. It's been a fucking dreadful year.
Yeah, there's a lot of captivatingly terrible things this year. Some forgettably terrible things.
Some forgettably terrible things.
The Strangers Chapter 1, forgettably terrible.
Some painfully dreadful things like fucking Borderlands and...
Yeah, Borderlands, I've hated a lot of movies this year. I think Borderlands might stay steadfast as the worst piece of abysmal dog shit. But there's some contenders for sure.
This movie is uniquely and fascinatingly terrible. It's a horribly misguided, dated, awkward, Little Peep, Suicide Boys, Crow fan film. And it's all kind of incredible because the movie's technical aspects, like it's shot pretty well, there's some good composition, it looks decently nice, it looks like a real movie.
The action effects
and then stuff. Everything else is so disastrously incompetent that it's incredible.
Yeah.
Our main character is a suicide boy. He's wonderfully incompetent. Every single fight, he loses, and he just struggles through because he's invincible. So every single scene, our main character looks like the biggest idiot ever, where everyone gets the drop on him, everyone shoots the hell out of him, and then he'll just power through
There's nothing cunning about Bill Skarsgård.
There's nothing cool.
He's just the Xanax. He's just the Xanax king. He's too zanned out to understand how to like. Because like he's never being idiot. Subtle, and it's not like he's like, I'm gonna strike fear in their hearts and show how invincible I am. He's just like, I'm gonna walk up these steps and there's 10 guys there.
Yeah, and there's like these comical scenes. Like there's he goes to the opera to kill some people, and when he gets there, he kills a bunch of security guards, and there's like these comical shots where like his own sword gets put through his chest, and then he's like leaning into people's eye sockets with it.
Yeah.
And like cutting their faces in half with his katana, and
is this movie entirely devoid of tension?
Yes.
They never bothered. They never bothered to give him a kryptonite, so to speak.
Only
He's
tension,
just invincible, and they're like, "You're gonna kill these guys."
The only tension is they're like, if you stop loving your girlfriends, then you'll become a guy again. And he sees a video of her where she kills someone because she gets possessed by the demon man. And even though he knows about the demon man's ability to possess people,
he was sad for like 15 seconds.
He learned about the ability in literally the prior scene. He learned about the devil guy's ability to possess people.
Yeah.
He sees a video of her stabbing someone. He's like, I can't believe she's a murderer.
After
this is
Devil
so
Guy, the video is Devil Guy walking up and going, because he whispers
and then her
to
eyes
possess
turn
them.
white.
Yeah.
She starts stabbing.
She turns into a fucking comical demon person and starts stabbing him.
And he's like, I can't believe that she's evil.
Maybe he thought it was like that girl. Maybe he heard of that case of the girl pretending to be possessed by Slender Man to kill her friend, you know? So he's just more skeptical.
Yeah, he's
going in a little... He's pretty skeptical. He falls in love... He falls in love easy. We start with him in a drug facility for the first half hour of the movie.
Yep.
Not by any sort of plot relevance. He's just a fucking junkie.
And then he escapes with her for no reason.
I also like how
she's hot. I
the
guess.
movie's not like there's no tension. She's like, I need to escape out of here, and he's like, I know how to escape, and then they're just escape.
Yeah, no one has ever taken this very easy escape route. But then he gets shot. He gets killed because he's doubting her. And then the wise Indian mentor man who speaks phonetically like Temple of Doom says, "You did not hold pure love in your heart." Then he's like, "Well, I hold it in my heart now." And then he just comes back to life.
Yeah, but that's also when he gets the power to use his black blood to go between the realms or something. Something that they presumably might have tried to maybe use in the sequel because he goes back to like purgatory or whatever, presumably for like the foreseeable future in the movie, but he's like, now that you really love and you're done like doubting her and being a skeptic and kind of a pussy, like now you can go down there, you can use the black blood power, come back and talk to me anytime.
Yeah, he just, there's no tension in the last third of the movie. Probably the last half, because every action scene is him getting shot in the face.
Once him and FKA Twigs died, there's no tension.
After he gets shot in the face, he just stands back up, and then he gets shot 9 more times and stabs the person with a knife.
Yeah.
And that's the entire back half of the movie.
It
is so tensionless and hilarious and bizarre. And, like, it feels like they're making fun of it, because he's, like... He'll have, like, his sword through him, and he's stabbing people with the sword embedded in his chest, and there's, like, a cutaway, and then it cuts back to him, and he has the sword through his chest and, like, 4 bodies underneath him, and he pulls it out and stands up.
Also, like, how there's no, like, mystery. It's not like he tries to follow people. He's ambushed when he goes to his friend who is a tattoo artist, who's barely established, but in one montage we see him getting tattooed. And he's like, bro, I'm dead. And then everybody just immediately accepts his story, too. He's like, I died, but I came back to life, and I gotta, like, kill him to reincarnate my girlfriend. And no one's like, what the fuck? Everybody's like, oh, okay, man.
Glad you survived, man.
Glad you're alive again, bro. Reincarnation must be tough. And then, like a bunch of ninjas jump through the door, and then he kills all the ninjas. And then he's like, a cell phone. And then he flips over the cell phone, and it says... I will be at the Opera House in 10 minutes to be killed by the crow.
Well, not only that,
and then he goes there.
Every time he kills someone, before he kills them, he's like, "Where's the next guy I have to kill?" And they're like, "I don't know." And then he kills them, and then the crows just lead him wherever he has to go. He doesn't know anything.
I forgot
he's
the
a fucking
crow.
Moron. He's a stupid little.
He's not investigating.
He's a stupid little peep Zanhead that just follows the crows wherever he needs to go.
Yeah,
it's so stupid.
And then there's this one moment where him and FKA Twigs are talking. She's like, "If I jumped off this bridge, would you follow me?" And the implication, of course, is that they would die. But rather than them like CGIing a big bridge or just filming on a big bridge, they're on like a bridge that's like 11 feet into like a creek, basically. not a creek. It's like a very low current river.
I've jumped off bigger.
I've jumped off bigger bridges. He's like, at this height, your legs would hit the ground and you would probably pretty easily just
sprain an ankle.
So you might sprain an ankle depending how deep it is. And she's like, no, it's like 14 feet, but you gotta be careful for the undercurrent. Like, it wasn't like particularly like cinematically dangerous. It's not like there's that scene in The Lost Boys, which is an okay Joel Schumacher movie about AIDS and being gay. Like, all Joel Schumacher movies are about being gay and AIDS, including and shit. Batman. Even Batman Forever is about being gay and having AIDS. But they're like hanging from a bridge, and he's like, if we drop from the bridge, will we die? And they're like, nah, bro, we're vampires. And there's more tension in that scene where he's like, we should all just hang off the bridge. And he's like, well, I know I won't die, but I'm scared of heights. And there's more tension than Bill Skarsgård and FKA Twigs looking at each other.
Jumping
Like,
off a 12
bro, what if we like snorted some Xanax and jumped off a bridge to show how much we loved each other or whatever? I also like how the opera scene
where they're talking about jumping off the bridge, and he's like, I bet a bunch of angsty teenagers would leave cigarette butts in our arms. It's like, oh my god.
She's like, no, they would leave us white lilies. And instead of elaborating on that, it was just supposed to be like, it was supposed to be a moment. I don't know what the moment was supposed to be, but it was supposed to be a moment. And then I like at the opera house how everybody's watching the opera intently, which I guess opera's pretty loud because they're opera singers.
And
but there are guns going. People
times.
are getting shot left and right. He's shooting, they're shooting. Probably like 300 rounds of ammunition goes off. People are getting fucking brained and gutted with a fucking... The katana sword he walked in with. Of course he's shirtless to show his sexy ab tattoos.
There's so much stupid...
But like, no one left to take a piss. No one heard the gunshots. No one heard people's screams of anguish as they were sliced clean in half.
There's
like,
so much edgy shit. Like,
and then he ends up on the stage.
When one of the bad guys is about to kill himself and he cuts off his hand so he can't kill himself
so that he can kill him.
It's insane. It's
awful.
It's so edgy and embarrassing, and it's like the Suicide Boys movie. It's kind of incredible.
It's so dense with shit that like every moment I'm like, oh yeah, and that happened.
Every single moment. It's held back so much by the first half being such a fucking snooze. Like, all the shit about their romance and them snorting Xans and making out is boring as fuck. The first half of this movie has some really funny lines where FKA Twigs can act to save her life, although no one in this movie can. And she says some stupid Tumblr bullshit about love. And it's boring and very rarely funny. And then the last half hour of this movie is the funniest shit I've seen all year.
Is Walgreens like gonna sell Crow-branded prescription Xanax? Like, I'm confused why they were like, we're part of the Xandemic, bro. But they're like having fun with it and it's being cool.
Because they're SoundCloud rappers.
It's like when people were like, you know, when people are in like high school taking drugs and they think it's cool.
It's like, it's like living in Superior, Wisconsin. It's a little dopehead.
Yeah, this movie is made for little dopehead in 2017.
It's a fucking disaster. Every single decision, except for the technical stuff, is so bad and weird that it's kind of fucking hilarious. I was laughing my ass off during the opera scene. And I wish that the first half was expedited and just cut down to 10 minutes so that we could have just gotten this idiot Xanhead Zoomer running around
instead of
getting
having
shot.
An hour of really trying to sell this romance to Zoomers and boring the fuck out of anyone else who might stumble into this movie, why not just have him be like, I'm in love with my girlfriend and we're really cool. And then FKA Twigs is like a singer at a nightclub, and he's like, my girlfriend is a singer at a nightclub. And then it flashes back, and he's like, back in the day, we saw something we shouldn't have seen. And then she gets killed, and he gets killed, and then the movie happens, which I'm pretty sure is pretty much how the original Crow did it.
The opening just needed to be expedited so that we could just have the world's stupidest Xanhead getting blown the fuck out in every fight and still winning because it's hilarious. and everything
Yeah.
else is boring schlock. And it's surprisingly well shot and well made for a movie this fucking horrendous, which kind of adds to it.
Yeah, no, they got like a real cinematographer somehow, and they got like
Money.
decent sets. The costume design was definitely had cringe in mind, but I don't think it was necessarily terrible.
Oh my god.
It was
And
like Lionsgate put a lot to make this movie look and feel pretty good. Even like there wasn't much CGI. The fight scenes were cool.
Yeah.
Lionsgate's whole thing is John Wick clones.
when he comes
So there was
back,
the John Wick style action, and the reason I say that, I want to point out, we were watching the trailers, and I don't remember what the movie was, but it was Dave Bautista's new John Wick clone.
oh yeah,
And it's like, clearly John Wick, he's like, I don't want the hit to be out on me anymore because I don't really have cancer. It looks really stupid.
yeah, it looks horrible.
But like 4 times, they're like, from the studio that brought you John Wick, from the costume designer of John Wick Chapter 2, from the guy, from the prop master who was the assistant on John Wick Chapter 2.
Yeah.
There is a car that was in John Wick.
I think the hardest I laughed at this movie is when he comes back from the dead after doubting his girlfriend, and then he tattoos, he tattoos "Cry Now, Cry Later" on his hand.
Yeah.
And then he
It
starts
was a callback, everything came full
He starts
circle.
smearing his face with Bobby Burns makeup when Bobby Burns was doing the clown rap thing after getting cucked by Shane Dawson.
Yeah.
And there's like 4 scenes of him like flexing in the mirror with the clown makeup on. It's so funny. It's so
then
funny.
he gets the trench coat, no shirt. I also like how he's truly incompetent. Like the only thing that he is keeping him alive is like the fucking
literal magic.
invincibility. Like he jumps these guys by surprise, shoots, misses, and then he flies through their window. And then he's shooting everybody point blank in the car, but not hitting anybody. And then, despite being fucking invincible and
He gets
being
kicked.
able to take his sweet time blowing people's fucking brains out, he gets thrown out and ran over by a semi truck.
So stupid.
He's pathetic, frankly. Like, yeah,
He's the least cool action hero that you could possibly imagine. The
Yes.
most pathetic SoundCloud rapper, 70 IQ moron who stumbles his way to victory through magic. It's hilarious. It's
I also
almost
like how they
genius.
when the biggest tragedy ever happens, you can become the crow.
2
I'm
people
like,
die.
what? Like, there has to be bigger tragedies than, like...
9/11.
Like, 9/11, like, how many crows are around on 9/11? Like, seriously, like, how many of these guys were after Osama bin Laden? Totally invincible. Enlisting in the military. They're like, I thought you were dead when he shows them the ID.
Yeah,
He's
but
like, just take me to Iraq.
They have to
And they're
believe
like,
in
okay,
true
buddy.
love.
Yeah, that's true. It has to be a mixture of the biggest tragedy of all time, which was the 2 junkies got fucking choked out by plastic bags. You have to be true love, which means you have to snort a bunch of Xanax and fuck a chick a bunch. And then, like, 2 days later, after trashing one of her friends' penthouse like a fucking asshole, and then you gotta get choked out by the plastic bag. And then once you go to purgatory, you have to tell the Indian guy that you're willing to kill everybody. And one of those people might have to be a demon. But if you follow all that criteria, then yes. And I think, statistically speaking,
At least one person.
at least
in
one
9/11.
person in 9/11 should have become the crow as well. My opinion.
Maybe the Indian guy he died in 9/11. He was the prior crow.
That's
You know?
that's the thing. He avenged all. He was the guy who killed Bin Laden. He was on SEAL Team 6. They're like, this dude's kind of a dumbass. How did he get in SEAL Team 6? They're like, I don't know, man.
He survived 100 raids.
He's got over 300 Purple Hearts, man. This guy's been blown to fucking pieces. But he always comes back better. Also, you gotta wonder, like, if I was
brilliant.
to, like, you know, in Fargo, they put the guy in the wood chipper. If I was to do that to Bill Skarsgård, would he just kind of, like, regenerate? Or like,
Well,
if I chop his head off?
I think he'd probably get sent back to purgatory and then just like respawn, you know?
Yeah, he does kind of
like
just
playing
respawn.
Call of Duty, it's just like...
Yeah, I guess, like, if the illness isn't too grave, like, he just gets stabbed through his organs with the samurai sword.
It's not too great. He just gets cut in half. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, there was the part where he, like, gets his intestines cut out and then he has to, like, scoop them back in because I thought it was a cool shot.
Yeah.
Oh
my god, yeah.
The Crow was really something.
It's a disaster. So, Connor, would you recommend The Crow?
To be honest... No. I wouldn't. I thought it sucked. I thought it was dog shit. And maybe for the action and the fact that it was funny, but unlike like Madam Web or something, which I think is in a similar category but might rank a bit higher for me, it didn't have like funny shit happening throughout. I can't stress enough that
it's a boring
the first
start.
like 40 to 45 minutes of this movie is a very, very dull origin, and the only thing you'll get out of it is maybe if you really wanted to see Daddy Skarsgård pretending to be a 16-year-old, you can see his bare ass cheeks as he thrusts into Shelley Duvall. So wait, would you recommend The Crow?
If you can power through the very boring first half, yes. I think the back half of this is a hilariously incompetent, so bad it's good movie.
Would it be unfair to say, since this is inevitably going to be on Amazon Prime in like 3 weeks?
Yeah, you can just skip the first half.
Yeah, just skip the first like 45 minutes. Just know
press
that
fast
the
forward
girlfriend
and watch to the part where you see them getting
they
choked
kind
out
of
and start the movie.
They recap the movie like 7 or 8 times throughout the movie.
Yeah, don't see this in theaters. When it comes to Amazon, just press the fast forward button until you see them dying, and then press play, and the rest of the movie.
I would say they die
genius.
probably about 50 minutes in, and after that you can watch the last 40 minutes and laugh along.
Yeah, the last half of this movie is very funny. The first half is so boring. I'm giving it a no in theaters because you have to watch the first half. I'm giving it a yes out of theaters because you can skip the first half.
The Crow, another gem on an all-around horrendous year, post-COVID year 4, and the aftershocks are still raging. But you would think the aftershocks would be dying down, but
nope.
They're getting more intense. It's like Glenn Powell in Twisters said, I think the big twister is going right. And right is like 2022 or 2023. But really the big twister is going left, and it's 2024 and the rest of human history because COVID somehow
extends forever for movies.
Yeah, it actually is actually a downward slope. Like, holy fuck. Yeah, this is bad.
Yeah, it is.
This feels like something that would have come out in 2017.
Yeah, yep.
I don't think it would have been better. It wouldn't have been, but it just has that 2017 attempt vibe, like that Hellboy, the last Hellboy remake, not to be confused with the upcoming from this year, also from Lionsgate, actually.
Oh, it never ends. It never ends.